Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. We are grateful to be here as a resource to people suffering the disease of alcoholism, as well as those who are affected by addicts. I'm Justin B., a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in miraculous recovery one day at a time. And I'm so grateful to be here around this virtual roundtable, this holy place that I get to be with each week with David G. and Nikki M. So why don't we just take a minute and have each of them introduce themselves? David, you start us off today.
Yes, absolutely, Justin. And thank you for your service today. Nikki, thank you for being here as well. My name is David G. I am an alcoholic addict of many sorts from Oklahoma. I've been given the gift of recovery since August 8th, 1994, and I'm truly grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Nikki, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful child of God and a member of this beautiful roundtable where we meet in a virtual world. And I just love it here in the spirit world with you guys. And I'm just excited. I entered the rooms 13 years ago this week. I'm a hardcore love addict, and Valentine's Day is on Friday. So, of course, I had to run into the rooms of Al-Anon so I could control the world from my mind. That didn't work out for me. I'm not going anywhere. I love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, David. We're excited to sit down with you today and continue our reading through the fourth edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous as we go line by line, deep dive into this. I'm going to read a few paragraphs, and then each, David, Nikki, and I will give a little bit of insight, some things that jump out at us, and discuss it. I'll ask a couple of questions, and then we'll close it out. So today we are continuing in the chapter Into Action, starting on page 78, about halfway down the page, with the paragraph that starts with most alcoholics owe money. And we'll read through about halfway down the page of 79, paragraph that ends with we must not shrink at anything. So let's get into the reading. Everybody grab your big book, your pens, your highlighters. Get ready to learn a lot, because this is a really cool thing that we're doing here. All right, I'm going to start reading. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors, telling them what we are trying to do. We make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony to number one. She is indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding, reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. So there's some pretty sobering thoughts and ideas here. Let's jump into this and see where we go with it. David, why don't you lead us off in this discussion and what your takeaways are from what we read?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. And again, thank you always for your tireless service. All that you do for the recovery community is greatly appreciated. You know, this is such a powerful part of the steps. And had I not worked the first 8 in the order that we've read them all of these weeks, learned what I learned, become aware of self, how to turn from that now and to be more reliant upon God, there is no way that I could do these events. There is just absolutely no way. It's too scary. I remember the first time that I read the steps off the wall. I read all the way down through, and I read to number 9, and I said, I believe that I could do maybe all of them except for that one. And I remember the guy, he was a full blood, he was an elder in the Native community, and he said, I don't really see how you could work step 9 either until you work the other 8 in order that they're written. So why don't you let your ideas be to the, he wasn't that nice about it. What he really said was, why don't you set your ass down and open your ears and begin to listen, and maybe you can learn something that'll help save your life. And he was absolutely right. Now, I've made amends many times through the years. It started out with simple apologies. That was the best I could do at the time. And then I had to get more into looking at the wrongs that I'd done to others. That's really what amends is about, more than it's about saying I'm sorry. Now, you'll hear in the rooms, and I've heard in the rooms a lot of times, and used to even say it, that nowhere in the book, in the directions to the amends, does it say that I am sorry. But Justin just read here today and proved me a liar on that's not the truth. And of course, I've known that for some time. So where he started in the middle of page 78 is really the financial amends. This is the part of the book that talks to us about financial amends, because most of us come in here owing money. And it tells me if I dodge my creditors, it says we do not do that. Well, the only reason that I would do that is out of fear. Not fear of that I can't pay them, fear of what might happen to me once I go tell them. And so, but if I can do it in this frame of mind, telling them what I'm trying to do, I really don't make any bones about my drinking, using, acting out, whatever it is, because they usually know it anyway. I love it what it says, nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory, because that's all it is. It's theory. It's not a fact that it'll cause financial harm. But to who? To them? No, to me. And so there I see, whenever I'm taking that sort of attitude and being afraid to face people that I owe money to, then it's really still about me. I'm still caught up in self. So I remember my sponsor saying to me, hell, they don't want your money, they want their money. And that was exactly right. So I had to make a lot of financial amends. But notice how it says approached. It doesn't say send an email. It doesn't say send a text message. It doesn't say maybe, I can make a phone call. No, I approach them in this way. My sponsor told me these are direct amends to the people I've harmed. We become willing to make amends to them all. And he said, I want you to pay close attention to the word all, because without bringing more harm, you will make every one of these amends going through this process. And he was right. I've made pretty much all of them, except for the ones I can't. That would bring about more harm. Now, my mind wants to justify and say, oh, that'd bring harm. But it's my responsibility to sit down with my sponsor, go over my 8-step list, and let him decide the ones that are wrong, the ones that are right. And so that's what it's saying there, It says telling them, not writing to them, telling them what we're trying to do. We make no bones about our drinking. Hell, they know it anyway. So, but I love this. It says, arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know. And here's where Justin proved me a liar. And many others that say this in the program. Nowhere in our directions in the 9th step does it say we are sorry. Bullshit. It says it right there. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. Yes, we absolutely do. And so drinking's made us slow to pay. We either lose that fear, or we're probably going to drink or use or act out again, whatever it may be. Now, I have tons and tons of beautiful amends stories that I could tell you today. We don't have time for that. But I can tell you that I would rather go and listen to a speaker talk about amends than I would about his funny drunk-a-log any day of the week. And I can tell you that I probably made more amends from untreated alcoholism, sitting in the rooms without a solution, hurting people, than I had to make in active addiction and alcoholism. That I just did, because, when you get sick in here and you live in the dark, thinking that you're in the light, you hurt a lot of people. So, and it begins to talk about, amends to those who in relationships. Here's the relationship part of it, committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail. I'd stole thousands upon thousands of dollars from a company. And I had to make amends for that. And it took me years and years of working the steps to do it. But because I would not do it, it kept me in bondage of self, and I kept getting sick. So when I went through the steps this last time, I became willing to do that. And it really wasn't that big of a booger man as it seemed to be anyway. So it says we've already committed this in confidence with another person. That was our fifth step, if you remember. We're sure we'd be imprisoned or lose our job. There's a lot of fear tied up in that, I know. Pad and expense account, it says most of us done that sort of thing. Married, divorced, remarried, haven't kept up alimony, man, guilty. But I love what right there on 79, although these reparations take innumerable forms, they're going to come in all different ways. Here are some general principles which we find are guidance. And I'm only going to talk real briefly about four of them. One is absolute honesty. Am I absolutely being honest with myself and with you? Or am I afraid? Am I going to let that fear hold me back? Because I'm about to have a relationship with God unlike I've ever had anything in my life. I'm going to get just a little graphic here for a second. When I was a young man, someone injected into my arm with a needle some poison that damn near took my life. But it made me so addicted to it that I stayed with it, and I would do anything for it. Rob my grandmother, beat the hell out of whoever. It didn't matter. And that's kind of what happened to me. But through this experience right here, as good as that felt that day, and as long as I chased that, the places it took me to, that was absolutely nothing about what's about to happen to me here with the grace of God. If I will step out of myself and I will make the relationship right with you. I have to do that. If I want to have conscious contact with God, a relationship with God, I can't hold anything against you. This is my opportunity to come back and to make that right. So there's some general principles. One was honesty. The other is unselfishness. The other is purity. The other is love. The four absolutes. Reminding myself I'm going to any lengths. Remember, we did that in step one. To find a spiritual experience, we ask, anytime you see those two words, there's a prayer. So here is one of our 9-step prayers. Give me strength, give me direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences. And my prayer is this. I have it written at the top of the page of my big book. God, please give me the strength and direction to do the right thing, regardless of the personal consequences to me. And get ready when you say that prayer, because, and my sponsor told me this. God didn't lead you out of a drowning in a lake of the illness to let you fall into a ditch and die. I mean, yeah, you're probably going to have to face some shame, and, you're going to have to pay some money and stuff. But you know what? That's just how it is. So I love this, lose my position. No big deal. I can get another one. But here's the key. But we are willing. The question becomes, are you? Are you absolutely willing to go to any length to have this experience, not just to get sober, but to be free from self? And if you are, then you must not shrink in anything, because if we do, then we're shrinking back into self. This is powerful, powerful stuff. Thank you, Justin, for letting me share today.
Yeah, thank you, David. Good stuff. I've got some stuff, a question for you here in a few minutes. But first, let's hear what Nikki pulls out of this and what we can learn in addition from another angle.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Justin and David. I learned so much. This is one of my favorite hours or times of the week. So there's so much here. And David did such a great job, but I'll just skim over the parts that I really emphasize when I'm sponsoring and how I live. Most alcoholics, addicts owe money. And you have to answer when I'm sponsoring a solid yes or no. Is this yes or no? Do you owe money? And usually it's yes. So we don't dodge our creditors. And that means we have to pay all of our bills. And, I sponsor gamblers. I sponsor money addicts, and I am not a gambler. I'm a type 1. I can take it or leave it. Now, money, the obsession of thinking about money or earning money or workaholism, all that stuff. No, I'm a type 3, gates of insanity or death. And so I do explain that to some people, but it says right here, we have to arrange the best deal we can. We have to make it's nothing that's impossible. I always tell people, don't go with $5 if you owe $5,000. Wait till you have a little bit more. make sure it's a sincere amends. Don't just do it because your sponsor said run out and do this. Because remember in the rooms, and we've talked about it, this is sick people helping sick people. This is not, no one here is a professional. This is all people helping other people with no financial return involved. So this is really radical. And yes, I love how, because I'm one of those people, doesn't say sorry in the book. And there it does. Exactly what David says. It says, we let them know we are sorry. But on page 83, it says a remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fit the bill. So this is where I always say it's like the movie Karate Kid. There's a lot of working parts in here. So you say you're sorry, but on a few pages over, it says a remorseful mumbling that you're sorry isn't going to be enough. I had a woman message me the other day and she wanted to make an amends. And, I said, no. I said, no, there's nothing to talk about. Because I knew, I've watched it. I know her. I'm armed with the facts about this disease and others. She was going to do a remorseful mumbling. It says our behavior will convince them more. So we'll talk more on that later. But I don't use the word sorry. My son always comes, Mom, I'm sorry I'm late. No, you're not. Because if you were really sorry, you would show up on time. So we don't even use that word in my house. Here it is. You have to lose your fear. Remember on page 68, we have a prayer that helps us remove our fear and direct our attention to what God would have us be. And I love this. No matter how far we have to go, and remember what the step 9, what it says for step 9, it says, we make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And yes, David's right. I'll use that as an excuse. Like that's not good. But no, there's so many parts of this that can injure others, including yourself. Because I've been told by a sponsor to go out and do something that would have pushed me right out of the rooms. It may have pushed me off this planet. So you have to be very careful. But I love this. You're going to drink, act out, get obsessive if you don't face these things. So we're going to have to face these things. And it's not an overnight matter. So don't worry. We don't have to do this tomorrow or today, because we're going to read later that you need to grow in effectiveness and understanding, not run out and make a bunch of insincere amends. So slow down and chill out, Nikki. Doesn't happen overnight. And this one here, because I told you at the beginning of this podcast, I come from Al-Anon. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense that might land us in jail if it were known to authorities. Not me, Miss Al-Anon. Nikki, you were planning a murder. That's illegal in Canada. You were going to murder your lover and kill yourself. That's homicide, suicide. You understand. So most people I have sponsored and myself, we put a big yes there. Oh, but Nikki, I'm just a codependent. Codependent. Remember in 1983 when you got drunk because your lover couldn't drive you home? Put it down. Yes. Like you got to show people that they just weren't caught. This is a radically honest program, and I always remind people too, and whatever, I love what David says. If your sponsor says something different, do what your sponsor says. This has been my experience in the program. This was written in 1940. So I'm number 504-222-568 at my job, at my unionized numbered job. I can't just go to Ma and Pa and say, I have this alcoholism disease and I need, no, I'm a number in Canada in 2025. They're just going to hire the next person. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I want to skip ahead to this part because David went through all that stuff. But these reparations, their amends, takes innumerable forms. I go deep here. Innumerable means too many ways to count. So these examples in the book are great, but innumerable means too many ways. And the principles, I love what David gave us 4. There's a principle to each step, so you could even apply all 12 principles. And guiding. Hello, everybody. Are you reminding yourself daily that you decided to go to any lengths? And any lengths doesn't fly to Oklahoma and do what David says, or to Spokane, Washington, where Justin is. Any lengths is follow the exact instructions of our big book. That's all. Any lengths is follow the instructions to find a spiritual experience every day. See, I need this experience every day. Here's my step 9 prayer for strength and direction to do the right thing. Ask God. Doesn't say call your sponsor. And I have to be willing. I can't shrink. Remember, the book's going to tell us soon, stand tall, Nikki. I was wrong. I can do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikki. All right, I've got a couple of questions, one for each of you, and we'll just go into these and see where this goes. David, first question I have for you is something you said that really opened my eyes. So it's you said this is based on fear, but you said they don't want your money. They want their money. And that was a big shift in my mind as you said that. Sometimes with the financial amends, I'm like, but that's my money. No, it's not. It's their money. So talk to me just a little bit more of that perspective change and how self's voice can really get in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always love your questions, Justin. They're so in depth. I mean, man, you've got a great ear for hearing and doing that. And I'll just talk about an experience of mine. I worked for an oil company here in Oklahoma that paid me more than I would ever be worth, and it was just an ungodly amount of money. But I seen ways that I could take advantage of them and get more. And I did. And I was sober during these years. It's not like I can't blame this on drinking though. And so, I knew all along that I was doing wrong, but throughout the times that I'd worked the steps, that amends would always come up. And it's like, man, I don't want to make that. We're talking about several thousands of dollars here, And so I remember sitting quietly and reflecting on my 8th step list once, and that's kind of what came up is, they're I was thinking, God, that's my money. It's gonna, my family. I was coming up with all these excuses. And the thought that came is, it's not your money, it's theirs. You took their money. Regardless, I mean, you didn't need it. You wasn't in a bind for it. There was no reason for me to take that money other than I could and I did. And so I love what it says, though, and we have to pay careful attention to the writing, making the best deal that we can. And that's what I did. I looked very closely at this because it was enough money to send me to jail for a long time. And I knew that was probably going to happen. So here's what ended up happening with that amends. I prayed about it, talked with a lot of people about it. I got a hold of a guy that sponsored an attorney, and they gave me some good advice. And it was just really on my heart. So one day I was driving, and the thought came to me is that you don't really need to be in jail. If you're in jail, you can't provide for your family. We're going to read that in the book as well. But you're going to have to make it right with this money. One way or the other, you're going to have to make it right. Now, the statute of limitations was out on that, so I knew that they wasn't going to be able to come back and put me in jail. But there was a greater part of me that just was full of fear. So I can remember coming home that day, and I sat across the table from my wife, and I said, here's what I've come up with in my prayer time and through talking with others, is that I need to pay this money back, but I want to do it in the form of giving half of it or a big chunk of it to a homeless shelter for women. Now, there's a whole story behind that I'm not here to get into today. And as she and I talked, and, I remember weeping and crying at the table even over it. Another part that we came up with together is that I would give the other half of it to a pregnancy crisis center for young women. And there's a whole story behind that I won't get into as well. But that's how I ended up giving their money back, because they didn't want their money. I mean, they were ready for me to be gone and out of their hair for good. In fact, that amend had been forgiven, but I didn't feel that it was enough for me just to say, okay, I'm free now, I can move on. I needed to make that right. And the way that I was to make that right was to give half to a homeless shelter for women and the other half to a pregnancy crisis center. So this is something we have to be very careful with because we can justify it in any way. But, I did a lot of prayer, a lot of guidance around this, and definitely got with a lot of men who were very, very strong in the program, not those that just said, oh, hell with it, move on, you're free now. So it's something that we have to be very careful with. But to answer your question, it's definitely not my money, it's theirs. So anyway, that's my experience with that.
Thank you for diving into that, David. I appreciate it. Powerful stories. Nikki, the question I have for you, you really sat on this. There are innumerable ways the reparations take innumerable forms. Can you talk, we know about direct, we know about indirect amends, we know about letters to be sent, whatever. Talk to us about some of the other innumerable forms that these reparations can be made that you've experienced.
Oh, that's a great question. And it really just piggybacks off David's. Like, an innumerable form right now, everyone listening, is to pay your seventh to RICO 12. It's a pay it forward program. You see what I mean, Justin? Like, so if anyone's out there listening and, you're like, oh, it's doing the dues. Like, if you were in a group for a long time and it's defunct, well, you're in this group now, pay your seventh. There's a prime example of innumerable forms. I'll give some. I threw away my kids in addiction. They didn't get taken away. I just basically chose money and men over them. And how do I make amends to my son and my daughter? There's no way I can ever get back time. So what do? And it just happened with my daughter the other day. I saw my daughter in her food addiction. This was years ago. I saw her. She moved to America, and I was like, "What happened there?" You got a car and you went through fast food, and she didn't want to hear it. I left her. What's the best amends to my daughter? I can't help her. I can't get the time back. I find another 24-year-old woman I can sponsor. And she was 24, 25 at the time. And I keep sponsoring them. I keep sponsoring them. Today on Noodle, I have a woman. She's 30. My daughter's 32. Sponsoring her. I've got sponsees. I've been sponsoring nonstop for 8 years, in the 9 years this Friday, in the method that I was taught. Because the first 4 years, I didn't even know what sponsoring was. And so it's a pay it forward program. So sponsoring other women and other men, God has taken care of my daughter. She came to me the other day, Mom, I have an eating thing. I said, oh, I got to sponsor a program for you. She says, I'm going to do it my way. Right? You see what I mean, Justin? Like, it was taken care of. Exactly what David said. I sponsor a lot of men, and I never say go and do that. It's like, you're going to go to the homeless shelter, the women's shelter, because you hit that woman. She never wants to see you again. You're going to donate $1,000 to abused women. Oh, what, you and your girlfriend had an abortion in 1985? Exactly. You're going to go donate some money to Planned Parenthood or to that single mother. This is what it's all about for me. It's in action. And so the greatest amends I can make to the human race, because the human race is on my harms list, is sponsoring, is a pay it forward program. When I save someone's, not me, God uses me to show them the way out of the hole. But when I use that and do what the book says, and I return someone's husband, someone's son, someone's daughter back to them, I think I'm good with God. Don't you?
Thank you, Nikki. Good stuff. All right. Takeaways. David, what's a takeaway you have from this conversation that we've just had?
It's just do not shrink, because, it is so easy to fall into fear and justify yourself completely out of doing this or doing it half-ass. It's just no good. We've done the work thoroughly, assuming we've done the work thoroughly up to this point. Page 75 told us that we are now walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Now, that was in step 5 directions, I know, but that was talking about moving forward. The man that takes the first 5 steps is not the same man that takes the last 7. Now we have the power of the risen God within to guide us along this journey. He's not going to let us get harmed here. it's always been about making it right with other people. You'll hear in the program a lot, steps 1, 2, 3, you get right with God. 4 through 7, you get right with yourself. And then, 8 and 9, you get right with other people. But really, step 10 keeps me right with me. Step 11 keeps me right with God. Step 12 keeps me right with you. So it all starts meshing together in a beautiful way. And just don't shrink. Don't shrink. It's scary. It's ugly. Some of them can't be made. Some of them can. But there's always a way. Like I was sharing in just a little earlier, there's always a way to make this amend. So go with God. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Nikki, what's a takeaway for you?
That I've got to remind myself every day that I decided to go to any lengths, which is follow the exact instructions in my blue book with the white pages and the black ink to have a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening every day. See, I fall back asleep. So I need to remind myself that I need to be here and I need to do this work or I won't make it.
Thank you, Nikki. My takeaway is how the 4 absolutes fit into pretty much everything, including making amends, reparations. I need to be guided by these 4 absolutes: honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love in all aspects of my life. Everybody, I'm just so grateful to be able to sit at this table with these amazing humans that always point me towards my higher power and into the solution. Keep coming back, everybody. This program, these principles, this book is something that cannot be missed and can be life-changing. So keep coming back. Work it. You are worth it.